watching in the battle, yeah. Say what you want about me, yeah, but I'm a living in the green world, and I need the air to breathe. Some will say you gotta get your kicks by removing love from the natural chip. But metal will rust and money will burn, yeah. And on the final page I ask, were you living in the green world? And did you give some in return?
Program on Mount Hood, because that's kind of been the most visible and persistent threat to public lands up here. But we've also had a few proactive strategies going on that are really starting to pay off just in the recent past. And one is road removal. We've been working for years to push the Forest Service to prioritize removing roads throughout the forest, because they are everywhere. Does anybody know how many roads are in Mount Hood National Forest? How many miles of roads? Take a guess. Wild guess?
Over several hundred thousand.
3,000, several hundred thousand, a little high. 2,000, a little low.
300.
Yeah.
You got a hand?
300.
300, also low. About 3,400 miles of mapped roads, actually like official roads in the road system, and then several hundred more miles of what we call ghost roads, which are basically old logging roads that are pulled off the maps because they're out of use, and yet they're still on the ground. So that's enough.
300,000?
No.
30,000?
No, 3,400.
3,400.
But that's a lot of roads. That's enough to drive from here to New York City and then down to Florida. Just all right here in the middle of the forest. And so we have been pushing for years in different ways to get Mount Hood National Forest to recognize their minimum road network. We've put in hundreds of volunteer hours surveying these roads, and we've lobbied our Congress people to get federal funding so that they have the money to pull out these roads. And we're really excited that they have started the official process of actually planning the decommissioning efforts throughout the forest and agreeing to pull out the road network.
Are they gravel mainly?
Mostly, yeah. Mostly these are old logging roads.
Okay.
And we're in an area where a couple of these roads are going to get pulled out, and they're really important roads. And one of the things that's so exciting about this is that it kind of shows what persistent effort will do, because we helped shape this road decommissioning plan that came out of the Forest Service, and then we ended up appealing it because it just wasn't quite good enough. And one of the things we won on appeal was getting these roads that we're going to walk around on today included. And we'll talk about why that's so important as we go through it. The other issue that is not logging related that's going on, you can hear it going on over there. It's off-highway vehicles. So in was November of 2009, the forest approved a new off-highway vehicle plan for the forest. And it's really amazing. It was years and years and years of effort on the part of Mark and a lot of other conservation groups to influence that. And we now have what is probably the best OHV plan in the country. OHVs are restricted to about 140 miles of road in 3 self-contained playgrounds on the forest, none of which are anywhere near here. So OHVs are prohibited everywhere else.
So that's illegal right now.
So that's illegal right now.
Well, if he goes off the road.
No.
Nowhere on National Forest land at all, except in those 3 designated OHV riding areas, are OHVs allowed.
Because they have to be highway legal to be on a regular road.
Yeah. However, did anybody see a no OHV sign as we were? No. So it's not well publicized. It's not well signed. People don't know about it. People that do know about it may be ignoring it. And there's one of the reasons that restricting OHVs was so important is because of the illegal behavior that went along with those. People riding on hiking trails, people riding into the wilderness. A lot of damaging activity happens on those OHVs. So we'll see more of that. We'll talk more about that today too.
So this guy's totally illegal then?
He is, but he may not know it,
Yeah.
right? So one of the things we're trying to push the Forest Service about is to really implement this plan so that, we can restrict that.
Well, if you had a street legal dual sport, then it wouldn't be an illegal thing either, though.
If you were on a road.
If you were on a road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to show some problems today because these roads aren't quite closed off yet and the OHV plan isn't quite enacted yet. But hopefully in a year we can come back when all of this is done and the little victory hike and see how this area has changed.
Yeah, and a little clarification, like the OHV plan has been enacted, they just haven't sufficiently publicized it and
Enforced it.
Enforced
and
it.
Signed it. And,
Yeah. So it is technically in effect right now. And then the way that Candace and I often do our hikes, we're longtime friends and hiking companions, is a little bit of good cop, bad cop, or a little bit of policy and fun stuff. And so Candace is going to talk a lot more about the policy stuff, and I'll get to talk a lot more about some of the plants that are surrounding us. I'm an herbalist, and what that means is I use plants for their healing properties. And so a lot of the plants that we're going to be able to see, I can talk on and on about things that they can do to heal our bodies or if they can be eaten, things like that. So feel free to ask questions and we'll definitely have some planned stops to focus on particular plants. And then Candace is a bird nerd extraordinaire, so feel free to ask any questions about bird songs that you hear or birds that we see. And then both of us are avid enthusiasts of fungi and other fun things that you see in the forest. So basically anything that piques your curiosity, feel free to ask about. I would say especially after lunch, because we're going to try to stick a lot of information into your brains before lunch. And then the second half of the day will be slightly more on the recreational side. But I'm really excited about this hike. We've been scoping it out for the past month and coming here regularly and seeing how it's changing over the season.
Just for a minute as we're walking up this road, you guys probably are glad we're not driving on it. And this is a road that's going to be decommissioned as a part of that appeal resolution we talked about.
I know what made this thing.
All right. What does it mean to decommission a road?
Put it out of use.
Put it out of use.
People can't drive on it anymore for any reason.
People can't drive on it anymore. What does it look like when a road is decommissioned?
Will the plant life grow back?
Will the plant life grow back? Good question.
Certain types.
Will there be a trail?
Will there be a trail?
Will there be a road that would be flat?
Will it be flat?
Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
people can.
Can people still hike on it?
Can people still hike on it?
And
Yeah.
What erosion is not a big thing that they do with when they're decommissioning the roads.
Will they take care of erosion
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so decommission is a term that is really confusing to everyone, including the Forest Service. It can mean a lot of different things. They started to define it better in the next road decommissioning increment, the one that's down in Clackamas. It can mean 11 different things, according to their environmental assessment. Anything from passive decommissioning, which is where basically a road is already out of use. It's got some shrubs and trees growing in it, and really all they do is take it off the map. They might decompact the entrance a little bit, or put some boulders there to make it harder for people to drive on it, but they don't really do anything to it except take it off the map. All the way to what's called recontouring, where they will actually rip up the entire roadbed, remove it. They'll make the slope what it was before they ever put a road in. They'll basically make it impossible to know that there was a road. They'll remove every evidence of an existing roadbed. Do all kinds of things in between. So on this road, we're really excited because this is what's called a road to trail conversion. So what they're going to do is decompact this whole area, replant it with natives, pull out any culverts that are underneath the road, build a new trailhead at the end where we parked our cars, and then build a new trail that'll sort of zigzag through this alignment and hook up with the existing trail that's at the end of that. So it won't be possible for street bikes or dirt bikes to come charging up here. And that, that's that's a pretty comprehensive treatment. And that's one of the things that was part of this appeal resolution that we talked about.
So when they remove the culverts, are they going to try to reconstruct natural drainage?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, one of the things that's supposed to be true about that passive decommissioning category is that they're only supposed to do that on roads that have good drainage already happening on the roads, which doesn't really happen that often when you have a compacted roadbed. Beautiful, huh? This is Eagle Creek Canyon that we're looking out over. And welcome to the old Wildcat Quarry that we just walked through. It's pretty quiet here now, but this is a super popular target shooting place. It's also a really well-known party spot, and it has been a persistently illegal dump that's been a real problem for the county. It doesn't look too bad in there right now, and that's because about 3 weeks ago, Dump Stoppers was in here. That's a partnership between the county and the forest that organizes volunteers to come in and clean up illegal dumps, and they pulled, I think it was a little more than 6,000 pounds, so a little more than 3 tons of garbage and beer cans and scrap metal and crap from this area. Maybe not right from this quarry, but right from this area. And a whole lot of it is often here in this Wildcat Quarry.
Does that go to recycling then?
The scrap metal and the recyclables will, but a lot of that's just, blown up TVs and...
Dump Stoppers did a pretty good job of taking all of the major garbage out of here. Unfortunately, even if you look over the side here, of course, don't get too close for safety, but you can see some, tires and things down the side of there. So one of the great things about closing this road to vehicle traffic is that people won't come dump large objects off the side of the cliff and won't dump their fridges into the quarry and stuff.
Yeah, to make it even more awesome, one of the specific things that gets added to this road decommissioning effort is they're going to permanently close this quarry, and they're going to restore it to a more natural state. What that looks like is, we're not super sure, but they'll definitely be decompacting that, planting it with native trees, getting that to grow back so this just won't be here anymore. And that's awesome because we are now on the rim of the Douglas Trail. This is a popular hiking trail. That's what those folks that were here a little bit before us parked right there. They're hiking up here. Nice birds. And that starts back towards town, right around where the Eagle Creek Trail starts, and it runs for several miles up along this ridge, back up over the Eagle Creek Canyon, goes up to Wildcat Mountain, keeps going, connects up with the McIntyre Ridge Trail, This is wilderness out here on this side of us. So this is a pretty special place, pretty beautiful as you can see. And it's awesome that there's now going to be a trailhead and an extension into this trail that won't include, beer can target shooting yeehaw factor, because it's been a problem for hikers that have been trying to come out here while people are shooting. It definitely, as you can imagine, doesn't feel super safe.
It's wilderness now. Has it ever been cut?
We'll talk a lot about that as we walk down the trail. Mostly, no. They have agreed to do this as soon as possible and as soon as funding becomes available for them to decommission that quarry. And as you might imagine, that can take a really, really long time. So one of the things we're going to ask your help on later today is to just kind of push them to prioritize this in the money that they do have available for decommissioning, and also to take advantage of the fact that a lot of recreation groups, including BARC, including hiking clubs and equestrian clubs, really want this done and would be happy to help organize volunteers to do some of the replanting and the restoration work.
'Cause I'm alright, but the world is crumbling in front of my eyes. The children are hurting, the rivers run brown, and the men in power, they try to dumb us down. We gotta rise up and resist it, we gotta use our souls to change the world to one that's not bothered or sold. And I don't care what they say, I don't care what authority thinks, 'cause I know right from wrong, and I trust my inner instincts. I'm alright, but the world is crumbling in front of my eyes.
It's called bear grass, and I actually don't know about bears. It seems like they would probably eat the tops, but I've definitely seen deer having grazed the tops before. So apparently those flowers are very tasty for a lot of our wildlife. When there are only this many of them, I don't usually encourage picking one or anything, but sometimes you'll find fields where there's a ton of bear grass, and native folks used to eat bear grass stems as part of their diet. And what they would do is they'd chop off the top just before it flowered and then peel off the outside layers and eat the inside of the stalk like celery or something. So if you're ever lucky enough to be in a place where the bear grass is very prolific, you can try that out. As long as your ID is correct, you always got to make sure you've got exactly the right plant, not the least bit of uncertainty. But yeah, you'll see more bear grass as we walk along this ridge, and it's just so awesome. I love it. So you might see that around us there's sort of a carpet of this little evergreen plant. Got kind of leathery, shiny leaves. And if you see any of it in flower, there is some in flower at some point.
There's some over here, I think.
Yeah.
Is this it?
Oh.
No, that was the yellow flower I was talking about.
So the flower on this plant will be kind of a bell shape. Bears do, in fact, enjoy the berries. Candace actually got to see a bear enjoying the berries once. This plant grows really, really well in urban areas. You might know it from your local Fred Meyer parking lot. And so it's a great, sturdy, hardy landscaping plant that is also really useful medicinal. It gets used medicinally for urinary tract infections predominantly. It's a wonderful, astringent and disinfectant for the urinary tract. And it's the leaves that are most commonly used. And some folks use the leaves in a smoking mixture. So yeah, people who like to smoke tend to do that. And then there's another little ground cover here that is especially unusual. It's sort of a little unpredictable where it'll pop up. But over here is our friend juniper. And juniper will be present in Mountain Hood National Forest and rocky areas, but not all rocky areas. So it's just a little bit of luck as to which birds carry it where. Juniper is also a really good choice for urinary tract infections. I don't know if it's just because they both like the similar place and they're all dry. But yeah, it's a great, fun plant. And we'll probably walk by some that you can brush your hands up against too and smell. Juniper is a really nice plant.
How about this yellow flower right here?
That yellow flower belongs to a family of plants called the umbel family, which is the same family as celery and carrots and fennel. And that family contains some of our most deadly poisonous plants in the wild. So if we don't know which member of the family it is, we always just treat it with great caution and appreciate its beauty. And actually, I don't know what it is, but I would guess it's something in the Lomatium genus, because there are some rocky, dry-loving Lomatiums out there. But it's a pretty plant. Its taller cousin is our state flower. This is Mahonia nervosa. And it's got a beautiful little yellow flower right now. So super cute. You'll see a couple of it, but there's a lot of Oregon grape in our west side forests. And this is kind of an unusual one because we're not going to see a whole lot of Oregon grape on our trip today. But yeah, I just wanted to point it out as we walk by. It's a super useful medicinal plant, great for the liver and a great antimicrobial.
How would you use it?
The root is the part that's generally used, and I'd use it for tummy stuff.
Like in tea, or would you just eat it? Or?
I would probably make a tincture out of it. It's a really bitter tasting plant, so making a tea out of it's not going to get you very far with most folks. You know, we didn't do this exercise while we were out by the quarry, but you might remember what the ground felt like by the quarry underneath your feet. And now sort of feel what the ground feels like underneath your feet now.
Much better.
Yeah. Soft, maybe a little bouncy. I see someone bouncing back there. So yeah, that's part of one of my concerns about motorized vehicles on this trail. Is that, you know, the duff is here to be bouncy and to support really healthy soil, microbes, bacteria, fungi, things that break things down, and also things that help supply our plants with lots of good nutrients. So I just wanted to point out the feeling of all that.
Yeah, and I just wanted people to look around here and notice this forest. What do you guys notice about it?
It looks young to me.
It looks young.
A lot of trees are down.
A lot of
They
trees are down.
Cut,
Yeah,
cleared, maybe for the trail.
cleared from the trail. Yeah, I mean, where these sawed-off ends are on these logs, those are you're just going to see those right on the sides of the trail, and that's for logs that fell over the trail when they had to clear them off. So they chainsaw those and shoot those off the trail. But it is a young forest, right? And any idea why this forest would be so young? I mean, probably nothing here is...
Because it was clear cut at some point, or logged.
I saw some charcoal back there.
Yeah, burned. So we dug out the historic fire records for this part of the watershed. And this is from the Upper Sandy River watershed analysis. We're actually way down here in this corner of it. And we're going to start walking kind of across this black part. And you can see that about 3/4 of this whole watershed, and you know, that's consistent with the areas adjacent to this watershed too, were burned in stand replacing fires between about 1870 and 1920.
In what?
Stand replacing fires,
Oh,
they're
it was
called.
burned
To the ground.
Burned to the ground.
Intentionally.
intentionally. Yeah.
No.
Or no?
Not
Or it's just-
intentionally.
That's what, so, does anybody know the natural fire regime for this kind of forest? So every type of forest has a different, like, fire return interval and kind of intensity that it burns. You guys know about west side forests?
100 years, isn't it?
Well, for west side wet fir forests, it can be anywhere from about 100 to 500 years is the return interval in fires. So not very often do we have big forest fires out here. And when we do, they are typically stand replacing fires. They burn everything to the ground and then it starts over. So the Forest Service has, you know, for complicated reasons, used that issue of fire to justify a lot of logging on our public lands with this kind of story about catastrophic fire and how we have to prevent that. But a stand replacing fire, a fire that burns everything to the ground, is not catastrophic, especially on this side of the mountain. It's completely natural. So this, you know, none of this that we'll be walking through until we get out to the road really has been logged before. It's not old, but it's a native forest. It's naturally regenerated, and you can see, somebody mentioned a lot of down woody debris. There's a lot of places that, you know, trees are going into competition, and the forest is naturally thinning itself out. As we look around, you'll see a ton of snags. Missy will talk more about this later, but there's just a lot of standing dead trees in here, and you just wouldn't find that in an area that had been clear cut. Yeah, so just, think about that. There will be some variation in age of this forest as we walk on the hike, but not too much. And kind of notice what kind of trees are here, notice how nature is rebuilding this forest, and, think about what this might look like in 100 years.
I'm alright, but the world is crumbling in front of my eyes. Children are hurting, rivers run brown, and the men in power they try to dumb us down, dumb us down. We gotta rise and resist, gotta use our souls to change the world to one that's not bothered us so. And I don't care what they say, I don't care what authority thinks. 'Cause I know right from wrong, and I trust my instincts.
You pause here and ask if anybody can read that sign.
No.
Anybody know what it says?
No hunting.
Close. Yeah. It
says shoot me.
I think it says wilderness boundary, no motor vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see a couple that we can read. Yeah, exactly. So I speculate that somebody rolled up on a off-highway vehicle and shot that sign till you can no longer see it. And keep your eyes out. There's going to be a whole lot more signs like that, and it points out one of the problems that the Forest Service has with just putting up signs as a mechanism for trying to stop behavior. They put these signs up and 3 days later somebody has shot them down. It's frustrating for sure. I don't know how much y'all were looking at the ground as we were walking, but there's fresh dirt bike tracks the whole way here. So people have been riding their dirt bikes up that road we walked on along popular hiking trail on the edge of the wilderness, and we're actually going to dive into the wilderness in just a little while, and making that loop. So that of course has never been legal, and people do it anyway.
Are dirt bikes allowed on this trail?
No way. Yeah, and haven't been. That's not a new thing with the OHV plan. I mean, there's places in this forest where target shooters will literally shoot trees down. That's their recreation, is to shoot at live trees until they shoot them down. I mean, it's horrible, really. So it's one of the reasons we really want to get the Forest Service serious about implementing this OHV plan. Signage is part of it, but enforcement is part of it, letting people know about it is part of it, and certainly getting rid of the roads that access this is going to be a huge assistance to actually keeping illegal trails from being torn up through the forest.
And just as a sort of footnote, like, we're not trying to take down everybody who's ever operated a gun, but, you know, we don't have to talk about the responsible people. We kind of have to talk about the people who are using them irresponsibly. And then I'm not too sure if we made this clear or not, but this whole hike so far, everything on this side of the trail has been wilderness.
So you would also make the same disclaimer about mountain bikes as well, then?
Well,
There's
yeah,
places
as long
for
as
them.
they're in the appropriate places where mountain bikes are supposed to be. But the motorized dirt bikes aren't supposed to be on any trails at all in our national forest.
Yeah, we're not talking about bicycles, we're talking about two-stroke dirt bikes like that guy who was riding up the road when we were circled up. What can you not do in a wilderness that you can do in less protected forest?
Harvest trees.
Harvest trees, no logging.
No shooting.
You can hunt, actually, in the wilderness,
But you
but you
can't-
certainly can't do target shooting, that's true.
So you can't harvest trees. What about, can you harvest other plants?
Not really much of that. You're not supposed to do mushroom hunting or any of that kind of collection in wilderness areas.
What about huckleberries?
I don't think so.
You might be able to get permits, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think mostly not for wilderness areas, though. What about grazing? Can you run your cattle through the wilderness?
No.
Yes,
Oh,
you can run your cattle through the wilderness. That's kind of a crazy one. When they put that Wilderness Act together, I think it was 1964, maybe the first iteration of that. That was, the grazing lobby was a powerful enough thing to get that excluded. So there are plenty of grazing allotments in the wilderness.
Question, what about camping?
What about camping? Yes, you can definitely camp in the wilderness. You can't car camp in the wilderness. Can't drive your car across the ground to get there, but you could backpack.
So do they have to take certain specific pathways to get their cattle from pasture to pasture in the wilderness? Or can
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of pasture in the wilderness. That's also true. And not in these
Yeah.
kinds of
Well,
wildernesses.
yeah, there's very different types of wilderness.
Yeah,
so
true. But on
There's
Mountain
not going to be a
Hood,
lot of grazing in this type of wilderness.
yeah, but you can be hiking through the wilderness and all of a sudden run across a herd of cows. Well, I got completely baffled by a set of tracks once when I was out in the middle of the Badger Creek Wilderness. I'm like, wow, those are big. And I
Big elk.
turned the corner and there was this huge herd of cows. It was crazy. Yeah. So it's
What about horseback?
generally not. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of, that is probably the most restrictive designation for public lands is official wilderness. So we're just pausing here for a minute. We're going to get back on that trail and keep walking into the wilderness in a couple of minutes. But we wanted to pull you out here just to show you where Road 105 is. That's the road we're going to be walking out on. Remember, we parked here at this little spot here. We walked in, been going along the trail. And here we are where Road 105 parallels the trail. And when we're done with our hike, we're going to walk back out to the cars along this road.
Where'd we come from?
We came from this little dot,
And now where are we?
right where the trail, the yellow line, and the
awesome.
road,
Okay.
the red and yellow line
So
meet.
the road actually does end close by to here.
Yeah, we haven't actually hiked it down there. I suspect that it has been extended by off-highway vehicles to make a loop, but we haven't actually walked it, so I'm not sure about that. We'll talk a lot more about the specifics of what they're going to do with this road and why it's so important later. But for now, why are we concerned about too many roads in the forest?
Breaks up habitat.
Breaks up habitat.
Wolves won't cross roads, I hear.
Wolves won't cross. Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
I've heard
Yeah,
that they
I'm sure
refuse
that's true. We don't really have wolves here, so it's not a specific concern in this forest. But a lot of things, yeah.
Access to tree sale.
Yeah.
Access to logging creates a lot of access to logging. Heavier traffic than is good for the forest. A lot of vehicle use.
Erosion.
Erosion, yeah, huge one.
We mentioned compaction earlier.
Compaction, yeah. So the Forest Service knows all of this. In fact, in the environmental analysis for this road removal plan that they have, they identified, I think, 4 things as the main problems with roads, excessive roads. The first main one is unmaintained roads are the cause of sedimentation and erosion in streams, which is a big problem. through, these, we'll talk a lot more about the specifics of how that happens, but ecological damage that occurs from having roads change the condition of the forest floor. The other one was wildlife fragmentation, absolutely. Having too many roads makes it hard for wildlife to travel, both to forage and to disperse, to establish new breeding populations. And it also allows people to get in here and poach illegally and just generally harass wildlife. Invasive plants is a big one. It's a big vector for invasives that come in here, and those displace native plants, and they also really can screw up riparian areas, just the general ecology of wet areas.
How does it help invasive plants?
How does it help them? It does a couple of things. It compacts the soil and makes it really hard for natives to grow, and a lot of invasives are able to, live in these really disturbed areas. And then, vehicles pull in seeds from outside, so it's a vector to getting those seeds of invasives in here in the first place. And then the fourth one that they identified was that it's expensive to maintain this road network, and they don't have any money for it, right? So those are some pretty good reasons to minimize the road network. There's a couple more I'd throw in there. I think that roads are a vector for a lot of damaging human activity. We've been looking at OHVs. I mean, they're riding up this road and riding on a designated trail into a designated wilderness.
And then also it's a big vector for garbage. And as we see as we'll walk out, this road is lined with a lot of garbage that some of it, like maybe this Mountain Dew can would have been here if it was just a hiker coming in, but some of it, like pretty clearly wouldn't have come in without a vehicle and a person holding a big, 64-ounce Slurpee or whatever. So we'll actually do a little bit of garbage collecting on the last portion of our trip.
I already did some.
Thanks. That's awesome. It's a great way to give back to the forest and the ecosystem. But yeah, so a lot of that garbage wouldn't come in here. And of course we were looking at the dump site too. A lot of that wouldn't come in here without vehicles assisting in the bringing of it.
1, 2.
So these little plants fall into the category of what one very wise herbalist once called belly flowers. You might want to get down on your belly to get all face to face with them. Does anyone know what these flowers are?
Is it a wood violet? Is it a wood violet?
Yeah, it's a little violet.
Really?
And I actually am not 100% sure of the species. Probably is a wood violet. But yeah, we've got a number of different violets in our area, and all of the violets in our area, everything in the Viola genus in our area is edible. Both the flowers and the leaves are something that you can munch on. And both the flowers and the leaves have a pretty high vitamin C content. If you got a whole handful of flowers and you got a whole orange in one hand, you probably have more vitamin C in that handful of violet flowers than you do in the orange. It's kind of exciting. The leaves are used medicinally as a soothing mucilaginous plant. So mucilaginous is just the really silly, fancy herbalist term for slimy. So they're nice and soothing to mucous membranes, can be good for respiratory things, can be good for, soothing a stomach. They're a mild assistant to lymphatic motion. So they do a lot of things very gently. And if you feel like trying a violet flower or a violet leaf and munching on it, you can. If you would be so kind as to show me if you're going to harvest a leaf and eat it before you eat it, just so I can double check that you've got the violet leaf as opposed to one of the other leaves that are growing in here, I would appreciate that.
And you can eat the stem, I assume.
Yeah, the stem's totally fine too. I would eat anything except the root. Today, I don't think we'll see any purple ones today, but there are some native purple ones. There are a few different native yellow ones, and a lot of the garden violets that you see are also in the viola genus, and they are also edible. Candace's sister actually is the person who I learned this little mnemonic from. She used to teach youngsters about trees, and she would say that firs are friendly. You touch them and they feel really nice. Spruces are stickery. You touch them and they're kind of like, ow, ow, ow. And then pine comes in packets. And these little needles come in these little packets here that you can see. And how many needles in a packet is one of the ways that you can tell what species of pine tree it is. And pines, here, I'll pass this around. It's got 5 in its little packet. Pines are not super common on the west side of the Mount Hood National Forest, on the west side of the Cascades. So it's kind of fun when you get to see them. And this one here is a white pine. It's got 5 guys in its packet, and if you want to get nerdy about which species of pine you're looking at, you can remember that white pines, white has 5 letters in it, W-H-I-T-E, and then it's got 5 in its packets. And lodgepole pines have 2 syllables, lodgepole, and they've got 2 in their packets. With ponderosas, you have to kind of cheat because you have to sort of slur the word together so it only has 3 syllables, ponderosa, but it is 3 in its packet. But yeah, I always love seeing pine trees here because it's something kind of special. And this area has a surprising amount of tree diversity. Right here, I can see this white pine, I can see a fir tree, I can see a Doug fir, I can see a hemlock, I can see a western red cedar. So there's a whole lot of things we can see just from this one vantage point. We'll get up close and personal with western red cedar later on. But yeah, I really like them. A lot of folks traditionally, and if you want to come up close, we can probably even do this here. If you pop one of these little blisters on the side of the trunk, and we're not all going to pop one, but yeah, the resiny sap comes out. You can see this little pop right there? That's where I got it from. Used as sort of a wound covering or dressing, much in the same way that the tree uses it. The tree uses it to cover wounds when, for instance, a passerby comes up and pops the little blister on the side of the tree. And so it's really antimicrobial. It helps fight off infection. And also just sort of solidifies to be like a little sticky mess on top of your wound, which is great. Like helps keep out anything that would get in and infect it. So.
Have you ever used it on a bomb before or anything like that for medicine?
You know, you could. You'd have to, sort of do a lot of damage to a lot of trees. So what I would do is only if like, actually I've heard of someone in New Mexico recently when the fire was about to come through, they had to chop down a lot of trees as a fire break. She went out and harvested a lot of resin from her local pines. So, if something had to happen like that, then that's probably when I would harvest it, but
not from live trees.
I wouldn't harvest it from live trees. So this is one of the fir trees. You think this is a noble?
That is a silver.
Okay. Either way, this is in the Abies genus. It's a fir tree. And you can eat these little new tips of growth. You just take them off and you can nibble on them. I'll pass around a couple if you guys want to check them out. And it has kind of like a nice lemony, citrusy sort of a flavor.
Oh, you can eat them.
Yeah, you can just nibble on them if you want. And these are actually really high in vitamin C. And they're kind of a nice treat. If you dry them, you can make a little tea out of them, or you can just nibble on them trail side. And the thing to know about evergreens in our forests is that you can do this with the new tips of any of the evergreens except for one. One of them is poisonous. All of the others are totally safe. The one that you don't want to eat is called yew. It's the yew tree. And we haven't seen any on this hike. I don't think it grows right around here. But if you see a fir tree, if you see a spruce tree, if you see a Douglas fir tree, if you see a western hemlock tree, you can nibble on any of the new tips of any of those.
And would it taste poisonous? The one that's poisonous, it tastes
Not to the best of my knowledge, but I haven't tried tasting it. Yew tree, the Latin name is taxus, and it's a source of Taxol for cancer remedies. but it is definitely potentially poisonous. So you want to know what tree you're munching on. But all of them except for the yew in our area will be fine to munch on. Right here I'm holding a couple of little sprigs of this plant that's growing along the side of the road in some little patches here, and right now it looks very unassuming, and it's actually pretty hard for someone who's not super familiar with it to identify it at this stage of growth. As you can see, it has alternating leaves coming off the stem, meaning that there's leaves coming off of different parts of the stem. And this is a plant called pedicularis. Its Latin name is Pedicularis racemosa, and one of its common names is parrot's beak. When the flower comes out, it has this very peculiar shape. Usually it's kind of pinkish, whitish, and some people say that it looks like the beak of a parrot or the head of a parrot. And it's something that actually can't be cultivated. It has a strong relationship with some underground, how do I explain this? With mycelia, which are sort of the underground places that mushrooms grow. The underground body of the mushroom. And people have not yet been able to reproduce the optimal growing conditions for pedicularis, so they can't cultivate it. But when it is found in abundance, like in a couple of patches along this road, there's some pretty good stands of it. It's a really great thing to use for muscle relaxation. So like if you got really tense shoulders, or even some people whose migraines start with serious muscle tension in the back of their neck. Some of them find relief with pedicularis.
What do I do with it?
You could eat it, you could tincture it, you could make a tea with it. And it's also really good for sort of circular thought patterns, like when you're just sort of so fixated on something that you can't really get your mind off of it. So it kind of helps. It helps like chill you out and mellow you out. And can help relax you enough to get to sleep if it's just like tension and being alert that's keeping you awake. So I'll pass these guys around, and if you want to sample a leaf, you're welcome to. This one in our area is the one that's most likely to be found in enough of a mass to be able to harvest a little bit of it.
Was it an illusion back when I was young, when everyone was living on a promise? In unity and dignity, together we were one, believing in the freedom of a dream. Once upon a great frontier, not so long ago, the hope of man and earth were so connected. This beautiful creation, here to help us grow, is watching as it slowly slips away. On this carousel of madness, on a horse to kingdom come, I see our dreams just melting in the sun. Won't you take me back to Eden, to a time when we were one, before the separation had begun?
We're going to be walking through a variety of kinds of forests as we walk down here, and some of this has clearly been thinned, and it doesn't look too bad. They actually did an okay job in here. There's a lot of tall trees that are still standing, and there's a lot of stuff on the forest floor, but still it feels different from where we just were, right? I mean, what feels different about this?
They're all the same age.
It's all the same age.
It's kind of warmer and drier.
It's definitely hotter and drier.
There's more light.
More light, definitely, which is totally creating a different understory.
Yeah,
than we
and
had.
there's more light because they...
Well, I think,
Yeah.
aren't we on the sunny side of the slope?
Well, we are, the direction that we're facing is exactly at this moment, kind of northwest. So, yes.
Will we say the rain shadow side? We're on the rain shadow side.
Yeah.
So there will be
What else is here that wasn't in the forest?
Gravel.
Yeah, a road. We're standing right in the middle of a road, so that's a difference too. So I don't actually know the history of what happened here, and I'm not going to speculate too much about that. But the reason that these roads got put in was to facilitate logging, for sure. And presumably this was the same forest type as what we were just walking in. There's no reason to assume that it would have been any different. Was this necessary?
No.
No. So one of the things that's really exciting about taking out roads is it makes it so much less likely that this is going to get logged in the future. And what makes this particular spot even more exciting to us, this is a map of the west side of the Salmon Huckleberry Wilderness. Our roads, this is 105. We're probably right about here. We were just walking in the wilderness on this trail right here. And in 2009, you guys might remember, there was an expansion of the wilderness, and they added a bunch of new wilderness areas to the existing wilderness. And two of those areas are these ones here, Alder Creek and Eagle Creek. Those were recently added. And we're kind of in the middle of that. And one of the reasons that this Alder Creek wilderness area did not get extended down here is because these roads are in here. And Congress just didn't want to deal with roads issues. They didn't want to get involved in a conversation about whether to leave roads or take them out. But now, closing this entire set of roads, we've got a huge roadless area. And Oregon Wild, which is another awesome local conservation group some of you may have heard with or even work with, and they're a group that really championed the 2009 wilderness editions, is working right now to lobby to get sort of some housekeeping areas added to the wilderness, so to get some of these little pockets that were excluded because of various issues, but roads is one of them, added. And they now, because this whole road system is going to be decommissioned, have the opportunity to get Alder Creek Wilderness extended all the way through here, pretty much to the edge of those plantations on that first road we walked in on. And that means not only probably won't this area be logged again, it will never be logged again if that can be attached to the wilderness.
Does that take an act of Congress?
Takes an act of Congress, and again, that's a lot of the awesome work that Oregon Wild has done around this wilderness stuff, is organize people.
Name, huh?
So that's pretty exciting. That's one of the reasons we're so excited about getting these roads out of here too, is the potential to save this.
Which committees are responsible for those policies?
Oh boy, I'm not the person to ask that question for. Yeah. But again, Oregon Wild is another awesome local group, and feel free to investigate their work if you're interested in the wilderness editions.
They used to be Oregon...
Used to be ONRC, Oregon Natural Resource
Council, yeah.
So what do y'all think of this road? Well maintained?
No.
We've been talking a lot about unnecessary roads, and we just...
have to drive on it.
Yeah, glad I don't have to drive on it either. We wanted to talk just a minute about failing roads and why that's a problem. Of course, it's one of the main reasons why the Forest Service is also excited to take out these roads, because they just can't keep up with them. This road network's too big, and it's too expensive to maintain them. And this is one of the ways roads fail. There's all kinds of ways that roads can fail. This is called gullying. Pretty descriptive, and we're kind of at the, we've sort of been walking along this. It's getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's going to just keep deteriorating as we go down here.
Awesome.
This happens for several reasons. If the road isn't designed to handle the rain and snow melt that is going to fall on it, if a culvert up there fails, culverts are those tubes under the ground that kind of ferry water from one side of the road to the other. If a culvert fails, it can dump more water than is planned. If a road just isn't maintained, like this is what's going to happen. So gullying is something that happens on a lot of these forest roads. Erosion, runoff, actually banks on slopes. This isn't a real steep slope, but on a steeper slope, a lot of times the banks get undercut and huge landslides can occur, which is an enormous source of pollution into the water below. And again, roads are the main source of sediment in streams, and sediment in streams is the thing that we're really trying to avoid. Why? Why is it important to have clean rivers?
Because you want to have clean water to drink.
You want to have clean water to drink. That's a huge one.
You want clean water for the fish to drink, too.
You want clean water for the fish to drink. Yeah, drinking water and fish are probably the two big things that people talk about. This mountain is I think the monitoring report from the Forest Service, the 2009 monitoring report, says that 98% of Mountain Hood National Forest is somebody's drinking watershed. So somehow all of this land is, you know, important for that. This is the North Fork of Eagle Creek down here, down this slope, which gets a little steeper as we walk. And that's funneling into Eagle, which is funneling into the Clackamas, which is drinking water for Clackamas and Estacada. And this forest is home to a lot of anadromous fish, and a lot of them are endangered. And fish are very, very sensitive to both turbidity, so sediment in the streams that's making it too mucked up, and also temperature. And sedimentation tends to raise stream temperatures because it makes water too shallow. So that's why we're real concerned about it, and that's certainly why the Forest Service is concerned about it, and they don't want this road here any more than we do. Just wanted to go around and have a little checkout, maybe say something that you liked or something that you learned on this hike.
It's pretty astounding that there's 3,400 miles of road through here. That's a big number. So that was it, leading with that and then going through and really seeing all the different damages that are going on the roads and all the trash that we picked up, that really sticks with me. So yeah.
Enjoyed myself, had a great hike. I motivated a bit to go out there and identify more of the plants that I hike by now, so thank you for that.
All right.
Cool. I really liked when you talked about like alders and just like what their role plays in this forest. That was really sweet.
This was my first time at Mount Hood, and so I'm really motivated to come back. I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
I've never known the differentiation of wilderness area in comparison to anything else, so hearing the specifics on what you can do in wilderness area, knowing that we can graze our animals in the wilderness area, is just a great thing to know.
I enjoy seeing how much endurance the plants have.
I just enjoyed learning about all the indigenous plants.
I'm gratified to know that there are people like you who are dedicated to this and people like us who come out to support you.
I am so grateful for such a beautiful day. I just can't tell you how much I love that blue color that the sky is. And I also just really loved all the perspectives that everyone brought to the plants and the trail and the trash and everything. It's great to hear from everyone.
The song of the hermit thrush, I think, is what I'll focus on. I know that's a big surprise to everyone. And also thank you, Jim, behind the camera, for filming this hike, as always.
Everybody